Good morning and welcome to the July 14th meeting of the Good Neighbor Committee. This is our last scheduled Monday together, so thank you for everybody who's persisted with us. I have had a few people have reached out to me, told me they weren't going to be here, but in terms of attendance today, including Councilor Kenny, we've got Matt, is it Aitchison or Atchison? Atchison. We have Dennis Cross, we have Chad Eddy, we have Jody Clayton, we have Chief Merrill, myself, Dan Demerit, and Town Manager Shan. And Gracie, you're online?
That I am. Good morning, everyone.
Excellent. When are you going to be in Orono?
I should be coming up the weekend of August 10th and then fully moving in all of my stuff August 25th. And I cannot wait. Less than a month till I get to be back in Maine.
Excellent. Well, we look forward to seeing you. I would like very much to take you to a thank you cup of coffee or something when you get back, or perhaps even an oil change on Park Street in Orono. My treat. So, and we also have Cynthia's with us too. Cynthia Martinez Edgar. So thank you for joining. And again, this is our final regularly scheduled meeting. So for today's discussion, I'd like to do 3 documents that I shared with you and some and a little history document. So one document's the ordinance that we've been working on together for several weeks. And thank you to all the work that's gone into that. I'd like to have it's on the agenda for the town council meeting tonight. And for just a sequence for folks, the plan would be for the council to get a presentation on our work at tonight's meeting. So I've shared with you kind of a draft recommendations document that I think captures what we've talked about. But we'll talk about the document together, and if we need to redline it, I anticipate edits and suggestions, and to present it as at least a draft tonight at the council meeting, and then bring it in for perhaps a final, if we have changes still to make, a final document at a later meeting. The plan for tonight with the council is to have that presentation, and assuming council agrees, to call a public hearing on the disorderly property ordinance to update it based on the work this committee has done. I will never jump in front of the bus in terms of the council, in terms of their rights to make decisions in our review process. But I think we've done really good work, and I think we're giving them a really good document to start from. So I anticipate the council will call a public hearing in 2 weeks. That'll be our July 28th meeting. And then assume we'll have the public hearing and then potentially adoption of the changes for our August 11th meeting. And council's not meeting, it's canceled its meeting for later in August. So we're only gonna have that one meeting in August unless there's some kind of emergency need. So that would be the sequence plan. So for today, I'm hopeful that we go through the ordinance one last time with and I did not share a new copy with you again today. I think, well, yeah, Amanda created copies for you. See if there's any changes to it. Then I'd like to talk through the communications document that I shared with you on Friday. And then this recommendation document, which I promised to share with you, on Friday, but ended up getting to you at 7:44 this morning. So that makes sense. I know we've got a hard Joe. Gracie, you okay with that?
Yes.
Okay, and Jody's got a hard stop at 9:40. So to the extent we can get as much done as we can before 9:40, that'd be great. Any more thoughts on the orders? Hey, Brian. You have a set of hard copies for Brian? There's another set?
Full set right there.
Great. Just not for nothing, but I bought $40 worth of breakfast sandwiches at the field hockey and basketball fundraiser on Saturday. They're excellent. So I would like to let Brian know when I'm doing stuff that support schools. Yeah, they're delicious.
Or $20.
I got there's a lot of demerits. There's a lot of demerits at Page Place. All right, so we're going through the ordinance, then we're going to talk about the communication document, and then we're going to talk about this recommendation document. a report back to the council document that I drafted that we can certainly change in today's meeting. Any changes in the ordinance that anybody wants to call out or highlight? I think I really appreciate the work we did on it. We got attorneys, I think, did a good job and gave us some good insight. Gentle corrections when we needed it. Anybody have any concerns or questions? Again, it'll be subject to a public hearing, and they're all the regular stuff that the council will do.
21.
What's that?
20 you reviewing?
We're talking about the ordinance. Any changes to that before we move on? We've looked at it a lot, so. Hearing none. Folks ready to move on from that?
There was that one big change. I don't know if everybody noticed. That with the attorney, she wanted to make sure that we did not include notifications to post-secondary institutions.
Yeah.
Just could be exposing us to the liability of anything going wrong with that institution once we notify them. So they didn't want to just open us up to that liability, and they said, don't do that.
In the ordinance, that's not to
In the ordinance,
suggest
yes,
that-
not to do it in the ordinance, so it's not part of the ordinance.
but it certainly can be part of our response policy.
Yeah.
To,
Depending,
Depending on-
case by case.
Quick
yeah.
question, did you guys cap the doubling? Because we
Nope.
talked about the exponential nature of
Nope.
it, so how do
Yeah.
you handle that?
Yeah, dying to see somebody do this 40 times in a year.
Well, then take $40,000 fine, 10, double 10 times $1 million.
Yeah.
You're good.
It would be very egregious, wouldn't it?
Well, just, that is awful.
figure it out.
At some point, it's fairly lawful
Yeah.
to show our costs at the rates we're at.
Yeah,
If there's somebody getting to that level of foolishness, it's gonna be a bigger issue.
yeah.
And it would stop before it keeps doubling. Mhm. But it didn't happen.
I'm just a math guy, so is he.
We didn't
He
cap
knows what I'm talking
No.
about.
Taxes are going down.
It's $1,024,000 for the record.
Well, if
If
we
I
get-
computed
we get one,
correctly,
they
does that
pay
sound right to you?
lower tax.
You spend another $1 million somehow.
That's true, but long. Why would you actually lower the taxes?
Throw 'em in that.
I don't think we'll get to it. I think you would
Yeah.
say there'd be other measures.
Yeah.
Implemented well before that.
We got some disadvantage.
But never say never. Yeah.
Do business with, do business with Orono or.
I was gonna argue with him and then he said that we could lower taxes if somebody got $1 million. I was like, all right, I surrender.
Yeah.
Good point.
We did say that once the landlord's filed for eviction, there's no more.
Yeah, no more fines.
Yeah.
That's why we think that's gonna.
You'd
fix
think
it.
around the time it reached 128,000, they'd be like, yeah, it's time to evict. We're done now.
We'll give you what you need to go to court and have grounds to evict.
Yeah.
All right, well, I appreciate that, and again, really good work, I
One
think.
little twist, yep.
Yep, really good work, I think. So then what we talked about, moving on from the ordinance, on Friday, I shared with you, I took the ordinance, and Gracie's good work that she started with us, back in the spring, actually, on, the rights and resources for Orono renters. So let's start with that first page first. It's got the 8664000 street sign, and that's just a quickest possible chat GPT, make me a sign. But it has, it starts with a definition of good neighbor. And I highlight the, in that, we highlight the University of Maine just to confirm they're comfortable with that reference. So we'd want to, make sure, whenever you say University of Maine anywhere, you want to make sure University of Maine knows you're doing it.
Yep.
Then it has definition and then a set of bullets that kind of high level descriptors of what it is. And my vision for this document is it's the toolbox that we use for social media. It's a toolbox we use for door hangers, messages to the community, and repeating gets us a consistent message, high level message. It really is the most important thing for the general public to know about what's new with our good neighbor expectations in the disorderly property ordinance. So
Are you gonna physically do these signs?
yeah, I think, we'll talk about that in the recommendations, but I'm gonna encourage, as part of the town's communication plan, I'd like to see these signs up, quiet hours at 10, Orono's 24-hour noise and nuisance number.
You're talking about putting this sign up in the neighborhoods?
Yeah,
That sign,
Not that specific, we'll change it, but
Version of it,
something.
yeah.
version of
So-
it.
No, because the only issue there is it can't be the noise and nuisance number. That's our phone number.
That's the,
That's police department's phone number.
yeah,
It's not a noise and nuisance number. It can be used for noise and nuisance, but if you post that sign, I would be concerned that people would think that we've created a phone number just for noises and.
Oh, that's a good point.
oh, we'll put another verb in there that.
Just something
You
that.
know, my first thought, I'm interested in buying a house in the Webster neighborhood. I drive through and I see a bunch of these signs, I think, I'm not moving in this area.
Oh, I would be like, right on.
Because you live there,
Yeah.
but can't you see how it might deter you from saying, well, I'm gonna look at another part of town?
Or you could Google, Webster side and see that two people were, someone was assaulted in April and, those kinds of things, so.
Well, if I was moving there now or when I did with little kids, that would be comforting to me. So I'm not saying you're wrong. I think what I'm saying is I think people are gonna fall in all those
I'm
boxes.
looking at it from a business standpoint, and I would think that that would detract
See, and I'm looking
by
at it
from
from a,
marketing house in that neighborhood.
yeah,
I think we
and
need
I'm
s-
looking at it
yeah.
as just a non.
Not interested in selling your house,
producing-
or buying another.
Landlord point of view, I'm looking at it from a non-landlord point of view.
Well, I think it's, none of these things are like in a vacuum, right? They all have to be interwoven as part of a communication engagement strategy. And I think there should be something visible in our neighborhoods that signify that, we've got expectations and this is how people respond. We're not gonna change anything by putting it on just the website. There's gonna be 4 people at our public hearing. If it's a big meeting, it'd be 4 members of the public in our public hearing on this thing. We have to be out there in the neighborhoods talking to people about how do you respond? Because we gotta stop Diane from chasing people down and knocking on doors at 1 a.m. So whatever we can change, again,
Well,
this,
Yeah, I mean, that's gonna be kind of left to staff. We can figure out, because I got some other idea. I mean, there's a lot of stuff we could put up there if we're gonna just broadcast a phone number.
yeah.
I mean, I think
Staff,
there's a lot of
on staff to do it, and
Yeah,
then we'll,
okay.
then we'll,
Yeah, okay, we'll come up with
I
something.
mean, it could also have a QR code, right, which
Yep.
links to this document with a phone number.
yep,
Or it leads to the police department site where there's a
Yep.
wealth of other information.
Yep.
We can put them all over town and anybody who needs it for whatever reason. Yeah, we'll come up with something.
I gave up a lot of ground on the 911 thing. I'm getting ready to dig my heels in on 911.
What's your cell?
What's that?
What's your cell number?
Yeah. You know what? I'm telling, promise you, if they're calling me, you don't want them calling me, because I'm gonna be,
Remember, for signs, simple is better, because people pay close, this is simple.
Yeah.
And so I think simple is more effective.
Usually
Right?
somebody's riding by.
If it's really busy, people aren't gonna pick it up.
Yeah.
This is a very simple sign, it
Yeah.
communicates it, I think, effectively.
and it has alliteration.
QR codes are utilized these days.
I do.
Other towns I've been to have QR codes on signs all over the place these
Yeah.
days.
But we gotta get people, this doesn't work if people don't call, make that first call, and we talk about it here. Don't debate if it's serious enough, any persistent problem starts with a call, 866-4000. And that's what we're gonna train people to do it, because if Dan doesn't know about it, we're not gonna solve persistent problems, so, and people are gonna continue to be frustrated.
If people call early, it's gonna stop for the season.
What's that?
If people call early, the pattern won't start, it'll stop early and.
Yeah.
No, set the expectation.
Yeah.
Yeah, early.
And eventually the expectation becomes a culture, through engagement and repetition. And eventually it's like, it's not where I wanna live, Geez, don't, and the word will get around, if you're gonna throw a lot of parties, don't live. It's not, it's not probably the place you wanna live. You wanna make it to the list.
Move the old one.
Yeah. So, all right. We're still calling 911 for life safety emergencies. Anything else on the communication doc? So just walking through the rest of it. Disorderly activities are not allowed in Orono. Loud, illegal, dangerous, or disruptive. It meets Orono's updated and expanded definition of a disorderly activity. Know what's not allowed in Orono by visiting the hyperlink or QR code. $300 occupant fines established. When warnings are not enough.
Can I throw in one recommendation
Sure.
for that? Can I just, I'm very black and white and sometimes bright line on some of this.
Yep.
Where I would recommend that we discuss making it, when you say I'm gonna issue a fine right there, I think of it as very transactional, like you're gonna rip out your debit card and write me a check for $300. Where I would prefer the model be, we take more of a code enforcement approach, or we give them some type of a document that says, you've been noticed of a violation. And you will be followed up with by the proper by the proper people at the police department to get you the fine that's yours.
So could, instead of on the spot, could we say now issue a $300 fine citation? Is that the right term?
Just $300 ticket.
So even everything's, I thought about this a little bit this morning when I was reviewing this. Everything that happens to some degree is just a notice of violation. Like if you guys get a speeding ticket going home this afternoon, it's literally just saying that you were found doing something wrong and you have a chance to contest it. State has created the mechanism of fines and stuff. So, I would just recommend,
Well, why don't you say can issue a
Just notice
violation
a
on the
violation.
spot?
right, a notice of violation, like that's what code would do. So I was thinking about taking that similar approach.
So if I, but I'd like to keep the $300 in there, so a $300 notice of-
Minimum, yeah.
Okay.
Cause to some degree, if,
on the spot. Yeah, all right, so we're not gonna be handing
You know.
over cash to.
right.
$100, I tried that once in college, and Dean did not like it at all.
Well,
I was kidding, but you know,
You know, cause I think that the points, we could come up with some type of a notice of violation, quick thing that we can give out to people and say, this is the minimum, right? You always start with the minimum and it can be after hours, it's this and that, and
Yeah.
put some of that spirited language on there.
perfect. And they had, just one sec though, I had, one of the emails we got back from the attorney had models, I think, I don't know, they had a specific term that different towns were doing.
yeah, they had actually, yeah, to create the slips that you have them. We just should have a double check to see if the format of what we're giving for the violations.
Yep.
They want to review it. They said they, to
Yep.
be consistent with the ordinance, they
Yep.
take a peek.
Okay,
Brian, can I just back us up?
sure.
Kind of wish Diane was here, but the phrase immediate response from Orono's community oriented de-escalation trained law enforcement agency. Right, I'm just wondering if that's gonna make people, clearly the goal of that is to make people more comfortable calling the police. It's like, you know, they're not just gonna have whatever, worst case of Chicago police or something, New York police coming out. Is that the phrase that's gonna make people feel comfortable? Again, I wish Diane was here, but.
Where is it?
That's the right above.
Right to the right of the, right to the right of the sign. It says residents should never personally confront disorderly activity. Please dial 866-4000 anytime a noise or nuisance requires an immediate response from Orono's community-oriented de-escalation trained law enforcement agency. That fits you, right? I mean, is that a fair definition of what you do? Do you think?
I think so.
Yeah.
Just depends on how wordy we wanna get.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were asking my opinion, I would say from the police department as a whole. Cause that's what you're gonna get. You're gonna get a police officer. And that is our mentality, that's our ethos, but again, just depends on how.
That said law enforcement agency. It's not saying a person, saying the agency is, that's what we do.
Do we need de-escalation trained,
Can you suggest the gobbledygook by just saying community policing?
community-oriented law enforcement agency?
Sure.
Yeah, I like that.
I will say that I don't mind it also mentioning de-escalation as a tactic that's used. I understand why both of those phrases are in there, and I like that it both mentions community oriented and de-escalation.
All right, well, let's keep it then. And then again, this will be like a framework that we use unless for communicating. And it'll be wordsmithed out from here as we need it, but I do like that we have that.
So Brian, are you thinking if the resident should never personally confront someone, it just means like it takes away your ability to go over and talk to them, or?
No, I'm more just thinking about Diane keeps talking about her hesitancy to call the police.
Oh,
And she's not alone, right? Being on the Webster side listserv, I hear lots of people are like, I don't want to be that person who calls the police and, right? And I think they're envisioning, you know, the strong forceful response, which is not what happens in Orono. But, so I think it's important to communicate that it's gonna be a, you know, calm, civil.
yeah, that makes sense.
Response. That's not targeting people or racially profiling or all these other things that some people start to think about.
You think, I think this may have been brought up, people are hesitant to call because they think that their neighbor will know, oh, Brian called the cops. It's pretty much they don't know who called the cops, if the officer showed up.
Yeah. I agree. I didn't want to put anonymous in there, and it felt like it was beyond that, but I did, for me, it's one, it's a safety issue. It's a time of day, right? But I mean, let's just, can't communicate ambiguity. I mean, there are times of day where maybe it's all right, hey, you just turn it down a little bit. Just stop. And you can't get into the process if there's, it could very well be, and I would anticipate, the police response and de-escalation could be a warning, and I would support that. I was driving by, I was driving through a neighborhood the other day, and there was a big party, people were family party, Winter Haven, and there were 20 cars all parked to the side of the road, so get through, it wasn't blocked, but I thought this is absolutely an appropriate gathering in Orono. It's large, but it's not unruly. And my expectation, if that had become a little unruly when Officer Merrill and his officers showed up, a lot of times a warning is going to be all it takes, and it's over. But then if, as soon as the police leave and it's like, Alexa, turn the music back up, but we're coming back, and that's going to be a different, I feel like that is, I'm not at all trained and I'm not responsible for this, but that's kind of the expectation I think we have, right? We went out of our way to say that Orono welcomes parties and fun in our college town. This is going to be, we're not trying to outlaw a good time in Orono. We're just trying to make it clear what a good neighbor does. Okay. We keep the 911, sort of the activities. We went through the $300 occupant fine established. I had a little trouble, and Clint and I were, Clint's snarky, right? You call him more than once in the same day, and he's like, "This is the Orono Town Council liaison hotline. Thank you for calling." Man, the guy gets past his first year review.
A little bit of fun one time.
So we had some discussions about what an occupant is. And I mean, it needs to be really clear that it's a homeowner and a tenant. And the person living there is the occupant. And I think this does it, but.
And we twisted the language a little bit to redefine it in the ordinance for the fines that, that tenant and occupant are used interchangeably in these situations.
I have a question on that. All right, I have a complex that's got 3 buildings in it. It's got 8 units in each building. So one apartment has a disorderly event. One of the apartments in one of the other buildings has a disorderly event a month later. Is that a second offense?
It's address, I think, is what we're gonna go with.
By
the mailing
apartment,
address.
right?
Yeah, because it's gonna be by apartment. I mean, the issue is gonna be is that, do people get really creative? And a duplex is.
Well, my thought as I read this, means that first offense, the tenant gets $300, the landlord does not get a fine.
Okay.
The next one is that the second offense, so now I get a $600 fine?
If it's
And
at
the
the
tenant
same tenant, same occupant, same location, yes.
Oh, okay, so you're actually talking about the specific mailing address of that apartment.
Okay.
All right.
That's kind of how we do it. We got some, sorry, that's big, but that's not as big as some of the ones we deal with, so it's gonna have to be apartments.
Well, but that's my example, but you're right. If you went to,
We're not asking you to evict all your tenants either, just the ones that are getting signed. So would just be the one tenant that we keep coming back for. and-
Yeah.
Yeah. that's-
24 U-Haul
hey,
van.
sorry, your neighbor in this apartment,
It's
you've all got to
trouble, yeah,
leave.
you all-
You gotta find a new place to finish the school year.
Yeah, that's why we gotta work with you. I think that's why we asked the owner to meet with us the first time.
Yeah.
Hey, don't worry. There's another location we'll meet with you again. But, if we have 5 first meetings with the same landlord of the general area, we might have to start having this conversation. What's going on? It's a lot of first person meetings.
Yep, that's
You got a
fair.
lot of bad tenants.
Yeah.
Your screening sucks.
Could be.
All right, so okay with that then?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right, Orono's quiet hours start at 10 PM. The fines are doubled. At 10 PM, so the activity fines are doubled. That's pretty straightforward. We don't actually declare quiet hours in the ordinance anywhere, but I mean,
Nope.
it's got I think it's implied, and I think we need to lean into it because that's what people understand. Okay. Then this includes a comment that Leo gave us over the weekend. So large unruly events are outlawed in Orono's neighborhoods. When disorderly activities, and we'll link back to the list of activities, occur at gatherings involving more than 20 participants, occupant fines are doubled to 600, and a landlord will also be fined. Yep.
Yeah, this is the one that I tried to reach out to you and I know the timing was what it was and.
Yeah.
We welcome parties and fun in our college town, but expect us to teach everybody to be a good neighbor.
Yep.
And then we say just that we're outlawing events in our neighborhoods.
Unruly events, is that,
Oh, would be, this is where I get worried. As a town, I hate being nitpicky.
Yeah.
Sweet, simple, general.
Yep.
Because if it gets into this, I mean, I don't know, it's just that where, large unruly events are not allowed in Orono's neighborhoods,
did you say that?
are not allowed in Orono's
That
neighborhoods.
better
Yeah.
outlaw.
Outlaws
Like
mean
a
banned.
really big
It really
word.
means banned. It means you
No?
can never, ever do it. And I mean, again, and that's, I agree, large unruly events, we kind of do want to ban them,
Okay,
but, there's always those. Have a great big festival that we throw and it gets out of hand and we're the ones that, we're the facilitator of that
Mhm.
event. Fall festival. If it ends up being great and it leads to a bad event, we're gonna have to fix fall festival. Not saying it would, but
This is
Sort
a
of
good
be
example.
careful.
You should all pay the fine for that.
get it coming and going, because it's gonna buy the fireworks and we'll pay the fine on the back end.
But I mean, there's also some where, there are events from time to time that I think you could say are large and unruly by our rule definitions. But certain lords work with us because it's beyond their scope and influence. That they're trying to mitigate it, and I would just like to say they're all outlawed. We know some of them are gonna happen and we do everything we can to work with them. And
So does this mean that even the landlord gets fined on the first event if it's determined large and?
It's large and unruly and has more than 20 participants, and that's something we talked about several times.
they went back and forth on this one, and that means you will get the first, that's.
And I assume you'll have it, I'm assuming your lease will be worded so that it gets, we're not gonna have a lot of it, we got,
We had 2 last year.
two and all at the same property all last year. We're gonna have more now, I think.
Because you're encouraging people.
Yeah.
And a third that we would work with them and never led to that, so.
So where does the fines double? And if this happens after 10 o'clock, the fine is now $1,200 to the landlord.
Yep,
That
If it happens against 24.
becomes,
48.96.
well, so this gets
Thank
back to
you.
the debate, so, and I had this and I shared this with Dan. The first time a person was ever summoned for a woman for illegal voting that led to allowing women the right to vote, she was fined $100. She never paid it, but it was $100 fine, 1906 or 4. Today's value, that's a $2,500 fine. We're charging 300, 600, 1,200. They sound big because I think we've become uncomfortable. When you look at the time, resources and money the town's spending on this, doesn't even come close to covering our costs. And that's usually the good test. Are we able to offset what it takes to enforce and deal with these? And no way, not even close.
my experience will tell you that the first event that happens with some tenants in the fall and they all move in.
Yep.
Will involve more than 20 people. Because that's just.
Yeah.
It's our first time away from home.
This is our chance. We wanna tweak the numbers.
Somebody's gotta come along and educate them that, hey, we don't want this,
Rest of us need to make the call before 10.
Yeah,
Even in that case, Dennis, the first one, $1,200, worst case, to the landlord. Right, if we had to, you and I take that out of deposit. The second one, we probably can, because it probably exceeds.
It's at 24.
Right? But that.
You're inferring I want to take it out of my pocket.
What's that?
You're inferring I want to take it out
No,
of.
no, he said we can take it out of deposit, not pocket, deposit, right? $1,200 is gonna be something you could be taken out of deposit if we had to. We don't want to, we want that to be to make it clean. The second one, 24, is probably gonna exceed deposit, right? So that's when he and I might take a hit or something if we can't pass
I
it.
know, it just seems like there's an awful lot there,
That's
fine
right.
this and after 10 and then you're gonna have fun with this.
I think it's.
You gotta count them, what time of day is it?
Yeah, do the quiet hours end, is there like a 10 PM to?
8 AM in the ordinance, but in the draft of the ordinance, it says the fines are, it's on page, I don't know where the fines are, there's a line there about when the end. It says 8 AM right
6
now.
AM or 8 AM? 8 AM?
8 AM.
Yeah, that's how the construction goes that.
I think we'll probably,
I know lawn mowing.
we'll probably align it, I think we'll align it to 7 AM with the noise ordinance, just so it's consistent probably in the council. We can change it there, if that makes sense. But
All the students want to have 12:30, 7:30 in the morning. Good for.
Yeah.
It's
Not
still
very
saving us
likely.
money in repair bills. I'm looking at it.
Okay,
Hopefully this is a deterrent, you know, this is a,
Yeah.
it just, there's fewer shenanigans going forward.
And the kids will talk about it.
so we'll change to 7.
The kids will be like, yeah, man, we just got fined $1,200 from our landlord because the police came out, blah, blah, like, they'll tell each other, you know.
Let me check the 7 a.m. in noise.
All right,
So you changed outline, does it help to say Orono's residential neighborhoods? I guess there's not technically anything, totally property that's specific zoning, but that's really the intention, right? It's not commercial districts that we're trying to.
well, no, we talked about that too, when we called the town council liaison hotline. We need to will apply, this is, this Matt consistently said, if you're gonna apply it to me, it needs to apply to the commercial one too. And this will be, if I'm living in, the Ave apartment 309 and apartment 310 is having a lot of ragers, I want the same kind of, I think the same kind of responsiveness in terms of that property. So I think and then if it doesn't, the university property, like fraternity houses or things are a different animal, I think, right? In terms of,
Yeah, and just a lot of different layers. I mean, too, you also gotta remember sometimes, the larger ones tend to have their own on-site resources available to them for dealing with tenant squabbles.
Quick question for Chief Merrill. Chapel Road, that's off College Ave, right?
what is it? What's
Chapel Road.
Yeah,
So we have the University Police. Do they tend to those calls on Chapel Road or is that a Orono? So my
There's
question,
not a fraternity that I know of that's on Chapel Road.
no, okay, so they only respond to like
Yeah.
return, okay, cause I just wanted, this would fall into a neighborhood in Chapel Road that they're having a party at the University Police Joint. Would they have to follow the same ordinance and would they understand what we're trying to do? Is what I'm trying to get at.
I would say it would be more difficult if it was at one of the fraternities or sorority houses on the town-owned property, because there are, right? There's 4 or 5 or 6 or whatever that's along College Avenue. I think they're obviously subject to our ordinances, but I don't respond to or even get notified of those
Okay,
parties.
that's,
Because the university police will come off campus, go handle them and then deal with them through their process. So. I would say that that's something that we don't typically run through our ordinance, because they have their own rules and regulations, because it's their building.
Yeah.
Their properties.
and in a more appropriate place for those, they've got Lori's told us about the work they do to mitigate harm.
Yeah.
Do some, and we can't do that in a residential neighborhood.
And there's a difference between the sanctioned fraternities and sorority houses that they know about and the ones where they all live there
right.
in town. 2 different distinctions.
Yeah, all right. Anything else on the first page? Now, I think on the second page, Gracie, I think, I'd welcome anybody, I'm gonna certainly, I think we need to lean on staff in terms of, what this page entails. And we can work with you and others at the university who want to help us think through more of what goes on here. But what I did is I took the stuff you provided us in the past about, rights and responsibilities protected by Maine law, resources that the Maine Attorney General provides, and the Pine Tree Legal Association. Like that Matt and Dennis have heard of them before.
Where's the section landlord rights?
Yeah, the second page. Yeah, well,
Well, actually,
Did you
so
find
one
that
of
section, Dennis?
the, my question to Matt, but with a different
Last time they
approach.
invited me to anything.
Gracie, are you there?
he's here.
Yeah.
Gracie? So I know you're working on this. That's because you're one of the officers for student council on campus?
No, I'm not involved in student government. I was last semester was taking a class about community organizing and I got interested in tenant organizing. And so me and another student began we found that a lot of our friends, a lot of other college students didn't know what their rights as tenants were. And so this was a project based out of that.
Where were you gonna put that information when you got it all together?
This was something that we had been discussing with Councilman Matt Powers, that he was considering, wasn't sure if we would be able to put this on the town website or if it would be materials that they would just have available and be able to distribute.
Okay, so the only thing I'd like to see the town do is we'll work with Gracie and you. We need an introductory paragraph here.
Yeah.
You know, we can't begin to be the resource center for all the renters issues. That would be, we get
Right.
it. But as a resident of the town of Orono and a renter, there are many resources. Here's the list of some.
Yep.
You know, and if we can be any help, feel free to call us. But again, that, you know, that's like, again, same with landlords. Yeah, you can call us. We'll help you as much as we can, but there's a line where get your own help. Call an attorney, call somebody.
I agree, but as part of that enrichment, I think it's a good balance, and I think it's worth noting that, you know, a lot of our renters, we're leaning into trying to educate. A lot of renters are brand new renters, first time in their lives, so we're spending a lot of time kind of educating them about behaviors. And I think it makes a lot of sense for us to be, you know, in terms of community building and enrichment, makes sense for us to be a resource for that. Yeah, I don't want to create the expectation that, you know, we're gonna solve these things for everybody, but we do, you know, on some of the code enforcement stuff, there's space there to the extent that people have questions, and we've got the rental registration program and things like that. So I think it's.
Yeah, just, I mean, a lot of times it'll be, have you called your landlord? You know, like calling up and asking, okay, well, have you checked with your landlord yet? Well, no. Okay, well, maybe you should first, you know, if this is a problem you're having at your apartment, that might be a good first stop.
Yeah.
And that's what we do currently. So I just want to make sure that it's kind of understood.
Yep, no, I think so too, but just, it doesn't get published in this, so.
Yes.
All right, so Gracie, we'll keep working on this and make it a part, something we can post and share with people as part of our outreach initiative.
Yeah, sounds great.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions or concerns about this side of it before we move on?
None that I'm going to share.
Thank you. Restraint, rights and resources for Orono renters and common sense restraint by one particular Orono landlord. That's what we should. All right, so good work. We're 2/3 of the way through the stuff that we'll talk about today. And this is the bigger piece, and this is new to everybody, so this morning, based on the work we've done. So as you recall, we did share with you the when we first met back on June 2nd, I shared this Town of Orono Good Neighbor Committee overview. It had the order that created the committee, the levers piece that Clinton staff developed for the council, the goals that council set, and committee charge and our membership. So working off this document and the things that we talked about, I think it's the expectation of council would be to have some kind of report back on our work. So this first piece is just sort of reminding council, hey, you asked for this and here's why. And then the work that we did between June and July is resulting in a set of recommendations. And I'd like to be able to say, and this is forward of me, but you know, I'm never gonna stop being forward. So, you know, I'm up for re-election every 3 years if people have a problem with it, but that's gonna be, so I'm forward here saying I'm hopeful this is a consensus recommendation of Orono's Good Neighbor Committee. I would encourage anybody who disagrees with something here strongly to make their voice known. You know, if we can't reach consent, if we don't feel like it's a consensus, we won't use that word. If people feel they should feel strongly, they want to come in with something that's not aligned with what we've talked about, they're certainly free to do that as well. And I'd welcome that in a council setting. But I'm hopeful we get to the point where we agree this is a consensus. So with that in mind, number one. Yep, go ahead, Matt.
Is this a typo or did Mitch get promoted? And I don't know.
He's assistant, did I call him assistant town manager? Or did I call him? Yeah, he's
Is
assistant
he
town
still
manager.
the community guy too?
Yeah.
All right, he's both. Okay,
The
got
town
it.
manager and
So now that he's been promoted, I can call him more.
You should, yep.
Alright, and that's what I heard you say too, right? Both of you guys call Mitch Moore now that he's good. Alright.
Called Mitch. Nope, that's not a typo. All right,
Okay.
so number one, and we've spent the better part of 4 meetings talking about this, so I'm hopeful we're home on this one. Update Orono's disorderly property ordinance. We talked briefly about approaches in other college communities. We got advice from Chief Merrill that the disorderly property ordinance instead of the noise ordinance was the way to go. To promote our good neighbor standards, and we worked with staff and attorneys, and we developed the language, and that link there goes to what you have in front of you that's on the council agenda for tonight. And then to make it high level, I have to go through this. I will go through this today and make the changes that we've made on the communication document. So we won't say we outlaw, we are not allowed. Not allowed. And then, so it's the proposed changes include the following: updates and expands our definition of a disorderly activity, which is true, establish a $300 occupant fine for disorderly activity, sets Orono's quiet hours between 10 AM and 8 AM and doubles the fine rate, but we're gonna probably change that to 8 AM to 7 AM. And large and unruly events of more than 20 participants in Orono's neighborhoods are not allowed.
Yeah, construction is 7 AM, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, so we're gonna
I don't want
change it.
somebody to construe this to
Right, we're gonna change it to
shut
7.
contractor down.
We'll change it to 7 to be consistent with the noise ordinance.
They start at 5, but it is 7, you're right.
And then, anybody feel any of that needs to be changed, or I'm gonna change? Do I need to change the noise and nuisance number? Or are we gonna work with the?
No, noise and nuisance numbers. Well, I mean, I guess Dan, how do you publicize that number? It's a non-emergent police contact number, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I guess I want to throw an idea. Why wouldn't Orono, with Orono stops and everything we've done, we branded initiatives around Orono stops. It is not, Orono stops doesn't mean anything. It's a police initiative. It means everything. And I'm kind of seeing if we're gonna do signs or notifications, why isn't it, Orono stops for non-emergency purposes, call 866-4000. Is that not communicative enough? Or do we need to specifically say, if you've got a noise call 866-4000?
It's an interesting point because they are gonna answer a Penobscot County dispatch. So,
Well, it's gonna ring here.
During the day.
well,
during the day.
after hours,
Yeah.
when you're gonna get the call, so
Yeah.
it's gonna go.
Yeah.
You know. And so them, I don't know, maybe that is more clear if I'm calling, it's a noise hotline, I hear Penobscot County dispatch, I might be confused. So it's-
They'll get you to where you need to get.
Yeah.
Pretty quick.
But I mean, from the sign perspective, I see a branded Orono stop sign with a QR code that says for non-emergent purposes, contact Orono PD at 866-4000. Those wouldn't be probably quite as,
Yeah, I want a 24-hour though. I want to.
You understood what I was saying then.
I understand what all of you are saying. I'm just trying to make it all fit, I guess is what I'm trying to
Because,
get
I mean,
at.
as a landlord, I don't care if those signs go up,
Yes.
but as a homeowner buying, I might drive through a neighborhood and say, well, I guess I'll go look somewhere else.
Yeah, and I think
This-
we're
this
gonna
kind-
talk internally. Do we put it every neighborhood, some neighborhoods, key intersections? I mean, we gotta figure that out. This isn't gonna, because I don't wanna get this, oh, I want one in front of my house and I want one in front of my house. Okay, for a $250 donation, we will put one in front of.
You get your rental overlays, just stick it in the dense ones.
Yeah, that's probably that's why I said I'd like to work with staff, but I think the signs are a great idea.
All right, we'll work with that. I'll soften that, so we're gonna work on it, okay? So
It's not even soft, it just,
But I mean, just to respond to Dennis, living in Webster Side and having bought a house in Webster Side, I knew what I was getting in for when I bought, and knowing that the town was proactive and, it actually would have helped instead of hurt.
but I mean, I think cemetery, couple of parks. If you happen to be in there, that's where people see things or get concerned or vandalism and, oh, there's the number, that's what I'll call. I don't have to call 911 to report. There, that I think does have a little bit of a benefit to it.
Yeah, people need to know it's 24 hours
Yep.
a day. It's
Yep.
not, it's not something you wait until no one's getting back to me until
Yeah.
there's somebody on
24
the
hours
line.
emergent, yeah.
Real time.
Yeah,
So when somebody doesn't get their trash barrel back by 11 o'clock, it's all when they have the trash pickup, you call 866-4000.
there's also gonna be that report of concern thing for non-emergent, you saw it, go back to the thing, and we got Cody to shorten the link for us. Orono.org/report.
Yep.
And that'll be part of it. You've got
Yeah.
neighborhood concerns not requiring an immediate response. You can't put that on a flipping street sign, right?
Yeah.
But,
It's gonna be.
Um, Neighborhood concerns not requiring immediate response, including trash, parking, general noise, pests, and Dennis Cross's garbage can. Orono dog. For the record, Dennis is laughing. You can't see him,
Yeah.
the back of his head on the screen, but yeah,
Well, that one just makes me smile.
yeah.
Well, we don't have to promote 911 for an emergency, do we? Do
I don't
people?
think so, but
Me either.
I just
I
wanted
think
to,
that's well promoted. I think what we gotta promote is the report of concern and non-emergent contact number. So there's two things there.
Mhm.
That gets all three levels. Yeah, okay. we work.
Sounds like the sign says, do you have concerns about your neighborhood? QR code, right? I mean, you can triage
Yeah.
into
Yeah,
24-hour.
24-hour police response versus code enforcement response.
Yeah, freaking billboard by the time.
Yeah.
So.
just a concern, report it here, QR code. And you could almost put them piggybacked with the same two signs.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Something like that makes more sense.
It also but it makes it communicates to residents who may have the concern and residents who may be causing the concern that we're on it. And that the people are encouraged to call.
Oh, we may have those. Somebody's gonna report the same concern 500 times and it may or
There's always one.
we'll figure it out.
Okay,
That's our job.
Yep.
all right, so I'll change that reference. Any concerns with this in terms of bringing it in? So I'm gonna have to, for this whole thing, I'm gonna have to be careful. I'm gonna call it draft. Even tonight, when I talk about it, I'll call it draft.
Yeah, and it's, or in draft and working document. I mean, it's not like it's gonna be written in stone and somebody goes back a year and a half later, it's like, well, you said this a year and a half ago. Well, yeah, we've evolved at something.
Well, I want to make sure I'm accurately representing the committee and
Yeah.
we don't have the whole committee here. So I guess what I'll do is I can share this around as a draft document again today, encourage people with any concerns to come in and otherwise.
Yeah.
But
And I just wanna say, I don't like that sign,
I did too.
because it's gonna get you more call. Specific to them. You're dealing with the public.
I guess, but
Simple. clues.
yeah, and the only thing is noise and nuisance, it's a number for it, so we're only gonna tell them to call it for a noise. I think we gotta.
Yeah,
put
I know
it-
what you mean. You're trying to check multiple boxes. This, I think, if the goal of the committee is to get more of these calls to stop the behavior early, I think this sign does a better job. You will get some stupid crap. If you have a generic one, you will get some stupid crap. He's not wrong with the trash can, right? I mean, you will get some of that. If perhaps got,
They already
you
do
have
that.
to say, hey, listen, yeah.
They already do.
They're gonna have to say, listen, you get a call town tomorrow morning when you open. I can't help you with that, you know. But if they already get that, you already get it.
But this is, yeah, and this sign is responsive to the 20 people who came in after the assault in April. I mean, that's kind of those are the types of signals you should report back to the community. We're taking these steps. And it's just, people will see that, and like Jody said, she won't. So anyway, we'll get.
It's like you can have a zillion of these, right? Probably a dozen of these well placed in the right areas. You know, you're gonna get the phone calls you want and they'll stop.
Yeah.
Right?
Don't
Once
jump
the
off.
kids understand, like, you're gonna pay fines, PD's gonna go out there. Your parents are gonna hear about it because you need money to pay fines, and then your parents are, I think it will stop.
I think it'll help a lot.
No, we're-
Shows we're serious. Number 2, identifying renters' rights and resources. Many Orono residents renting properties for the first time in their lives. The committee urges the town to work with university students and staff to support or spread awareness. Okay. Any concerns about that? Okay, number 3, communicate good neighbor expectations and engagement. Again, and these are linked to the goals that the town council set for us. So committee developed the communication document, which links back to what we talked about earlier in this meeting. Defines a good neighbor and to promote awareness and answer questions about Orono's good neighbor expectations. This would be pending council approval of the ordinance change. The document will be used to develop easy to understand collateral, street signage, door hangers, community updates, and community policing engagement. Social media posts that can be shared by residents, the town of Orono, and the University of Maine. So we encourage a website link. These are recommendations from this committee to the council and staff. But a website link to a QR code should be created at orono.org. A good neighbor one-pager should be created for landlords to voluntarily share with their leases. We talked about doing that. And then Orono Festival Days. We'll leverage Orono Festival Day to to welcome new residents to town, build relationships, and share awareness about Orono's good neighbor expectations. And that's work, that's Tuesday's meeting for me, so we'll do that work as part of, we have a separate working group and committee that's working on Orono Festival.
You're gonna get a lot of emails, chief.
We're getting there. Don't read, no reading ahead, man.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. My ADD kicked in.
That's all right. I'm with you. I see squirrels and I'm always chasing. No picnic for Clint, so. Number 4, allocate existing resources to good neighbor engagement enforcement. So Clint gave us a list of levers back in May. They worked with the staff. You know, we looked at that in one of our first meetings. We talked about some of those things. And, you know, we did not pursue recommending new police officers or additional code enforcement officers at this time. So that was not something we did. So it's just reporting out a fact. And frankly, given where the council's positions on adding full-time equivalent, adding FTEs, that'd be a tough one to get done without identifying revenue sources for it, which I know we could, and that's a longer term conversation, so.
No new taxes.
No new taxes, but really big fines, so. Nor do we think responsible owner residents should be required to get a party permit, we talked about that. And we also decided not to pursue the licensing of rental property, so. We encourage the town and police department to prioritize allocating its existing resources to good neighbor engagement and enforcement, and to report back to the council on its implementation plans before the end of August 2025.
That one I question. Why are the Orono stops is kicking off the exact same time frame?
Yeah.
So we can do both now by August, the end of August.
I think my vision for this report would be just kind of, hey, we're gonna have more officers in the, you know, we talked about, I don't really need, we're gonna have more of the existing officers and patrols and those, and it's the stuff that, you know, we've heard from
So I got a
Rock
month,
before.
first meeting in August, we're doing it at a council meeting.
What's that?
If it's at a council meeting, it's gonna be done at the first meeting. Cause I don't have a second meeting.
Oh, that's right, unless somebody calls an emergency meeting.
No. This isn't an emergency. How about the first meeting? in
Decide,
September?
you know.
I mean, I will say the end of August is the key window.
Yeah.
So.
What do we do? So what could you tell us? I mean, you already told us.
I know, that's why I'm kind of wondering what we're doing different.
I think this is you giving the town manager a chance to look responsive and good. I'm kidding a little bit. I think the stuff you've already shared, you know, hey, we're gonna have more, you know, I think more of the, just like you did on main day, right? You have a little elevated patrols and visibility and things like that. So with your existing resources. I know, I believe you've been talking about it, so.
Yeah, no, we are. I just didn't know what the expectation was of a plan.
Take credit. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
stop the recording, right? Take credit for it. You know, okay, you can zoom recording. Take credit for the work you're already doing. Just
Yeah, we can.
nothing more I like doing than helping
Yeah, we can do that.
helping
I mean,
people look good.
these visible early bursts really make a difference. I used to work on the University of Arizona campus and they pick a day in the first 2 weeks of class. 100% zero tolerance traffic enforcement. I got a ticket for riding my bike the wrong way, even though there was no place you could have ridden a bike, but, you know, and it was all over, at that time, it was all over Twitter and Facebook, and the message got out, and, it was 1 day's worth of intense police effort, and it just made an impact, and it got people's attention, so he's kind of, instead of just kind of dealing with it as it goes, he's kind of over the top first weeks make an impression. The classroom teacher knows the first week is when you set the tone for the entire semester. So.
One kid gets a fine, it's gonna tell 100 kids.
Yeah.
Is the plan to notify a landlord prior to getting a little thing in the mail that says? I hate to miss a good party.
We're working on
I
that.
used to, years ago, I used to get called from the police department when they were going on.
Oh,
It was before this ordinance was, and they'd call, hey, Dennis, you know, you got this going on. Oh, get rid of it. I've been to a lot of college parties.
All right, so I think
yep, we can do that.
you can do that. Yeah. What you gonna work on and
Yep.
what Ed Leskey's doing.
I just didn't know what plan meant.
Yeah, I apologize.
So that's why I was like, what do we do? Yeah, no, I got it.
We'll call it an update. Let's call it update
Update on implementation.
Yeah.
plans. Yep. Yeah,
We'll
that's
like
good.
hearing it.
Yeah, no, I can do that.
Yep. We'll take credit for the work you're already doing, but in a more formal way.
Yep.
Declare strategic achievements. Bang. Go on to the next. All right, number 5, disorderly activity and property reporting and responsiveness. I think we got to report back to Orono residents, neighborhoods, if we expect them to engage with this process, and not be texting me. You don't want them texting me. Like, just- And I don't, like, truly, I don't mind getting the call, but it comes to counselors or this counselor, yeah,
Well, no, we want them coming to the staff.
Yeah.
Going to a counselor is adding a layer that you don't need to add.
yeah, and
So-
some energy and some intensity
Yeah.
that, you know,
Yeah. Yeah, if we're not responding, then yeah, definitely call the
yeah.
counselor. It's the different board.
so, and yeah, the committee recommends following steps. We talked about this a little bit and I had some follow-up, with Clint about it. A Good Neighbor Wednesday, some kind of Facebook post from the police department on a regular cadence. It doesn't have to be Wednesday, but I think it should be, weekly, where we announce a disorderly property designation. So if 7 Page Place gets on the list, it won't, but if it does, it gets, it gets on the Facebook page. Yeah, we designated 7 Page Place in Orono a disorderly property. We agree, it's not gonna have names on it. We're not gonna name people, but we'll put the property address. And because it's public, we could do everything. We could say, it would be Jamie Ballinger at 7 Page Place had a disorderly event when Dan was out of town. Her knitting group got a little out of hand. Kidding, Jamie. But we're talking about doing that, and hopefully most weeks we don't have something to announce, but if we do, I think it makes sense to have a reminder, and we do those. I think there's plenty of fodder for the quiet hours, the good neighbor number, other things like that could be aligned, so on a weekly basis, there's some sort of visibility. And again, this is a recommendation, staff can do it, staff cannot do it, but it's what we're suggesting. Any concerns with that, chief? Do you want us to not recommend that, or, I'm happy to. I don't want to do something, I don't want to recommend something that you can't do, or that would put you in a spot that's not.
Like I said before, I think we'll have to see what the volume looks like.
Okay,
I'm gonna remain. I will get back to you with an implementation answer definitively,
okay,
because I think if it's 5 every weekend, then I'm gonna need some help. It's 5 a month, that's a different conversation than 5 a weekend,
yeah. Well, not activity though, too, right? I'm thinking,
an actual.
Property.
too.
yeah, no, when something triggers the property and then you're gonna have a meeting with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that is, and then, well, the next one too, right? I don't know how much we publicize this, like, we're not gonna put this on the street sign, I don't think, but you talked about your willingness to respond to people that, so if someone has a call. But I'd like somewhere to go where if it's a neighborhood wide concern, like there was a rager. And everybody in the top end is talking about it. I'd like them to be able to point to something that the town posts that this is what happened. It was. Whatever.
Now by post, I just want to make sure, Facebook?
Facebook. Yeah, and then I could share it around, and that's how people, and then Chad can say, yeah, I was on this committee all summer and there was a rager, and look, now it's on, this property had a problem and it's on the disorderly list.
People are seeing something that's being corrective action.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to go into, we don't have to write up a report for the public or anything like that. It's just this property was designated as disorderly, and we know that the town's gonna be working with them. Okay? And then I would like, as needed, the town manager to update the council in its public meetings on good neighbor engagement, development activities, whenever as he deems it's necessary or appropriate. Like to suggest, one of the goals for this committee was, metrics. For our goals, so I'd like to suggest that data reporting, like Chief Merrill gave us some really interesting, noise complaint data. So I guess the question would be, I think disorderly activity and property declarations are different than noise complaints. Does that make sense? Or how would you designate the difference?
So everything would come in it's kind of like how it's triaged, right? Everything would come in as a noise complaint. And then if we go,
Yeah,
I think that's where you have to make the determination, disorderly one, disorderly two, unfounded, kind of like the three that I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Unfounded would be, you know, either it's stopped by the time we get there, or we can't find it, or something to that effect.
could you add a warning category too? You will issue a warning?
I would say that depends on what the goal of this was.
Yeah.
If- I'm getting, as I've sat here and as I've heard the conversations today, I've heard heavy, relatively black and white enforcement, which is gonna mean a ton of fines.
Yeah.
And not much warning,
Okay,
but that's what I've heard, but I'm flexible. We've leaned into heavy warning and education. That's up for debate as to whether or not that's been working.
Yeah.
This ordinance change and the increasing in the fines is telling me that we would like to take an approach that's more authoritarian and direct, as opposed to passive.
I agree.
That's my,
But you also remember, everything we do is we're gonna meet every time there is one of these, I'm required to meet with the chief, so we're gonna talk. So,
and that's why I would say, if I'm more comfortable with the notice of a violation given, because it gives us the ability
pull it back.
to decide whether or not we want to actually issue a full fine or not. So they go there, they say by ordinance, this would meet a disorderly one or a disorderly two. If it comes to me and Clinton and I talk and we're reviewing or looking at it and we're like, maybe this isn't, then we have the ability to
So the notice
not send a violation.
so the notice could become,
It's follow up from.
Warning.
You're being put on.
it could become a warning, it could become,
what, $300 fine?
yeah, it could be a double $300 fine, because we don't like the egregiousness of
It's
it.
after 10 o'clock.
It was after 10 o'clock and there was multiple violations.
Yeah.
No,
I like it.
so we'll. And, yeah, and it's to your cause, it may be, you know what, it was over 100 people, it was after 10 o'clock, but you know what, first time we've ever seen this property come up on our radar, and we know that landlord's never had a violation ever before. Let's talk to the landlord and say FYI, you owe us one, because we're waiving the landlord.
Yeah, one of the problems I have seen in, like in apartment complexes where there's multiple. In the past, there have been complaints by a tenant about this tenant simply because that guy living there is dating the girl that I used to date, and now, they have they play these little games.
Well, and how many
And
times have
hopefully-
heard call
hopefully
it
the opposite.
throwing a party out of a vacant apartment?
We covered that.
You know?
Yeah, but you get 2 or 3 people
Fine.
sitting out back around a chair laughing and, playing a little music, like, it may not be that, so hopefully that there's place for discernment.
Yeah.
And the police officers
We
arrive
covered
with
that a
it.
couple times ago. Remember when I was asking, I shared similar examples where tenants don't like each other or somebody doesn't like, whatever. They can make stuff up. We've seen it, you've seen it, obviously.
Yeah.
And what the response was the last time before, I forget, was, if PD goes out, and they don't find anything, they're obviously not gonna issue us a fine because.
Yeah, and we're not gonna become the tenant
You know what I mean?
squabbling
Right.
resource
Yeah,
center.
yeah.
If we've got 2 tenants in a duplex and the people are having a small party of 8 or 9 people and maybe it was a little bit, we're kicking that landlord way. You fix this. Or
Yeah.
this is your first warning, because the next time we do come back, you're gonna get the landlord violation because your tenant keeps reporting the other tenant all the time. Deal with it, and that's what you're good at.
To some degree, I think to answer your question about data reporting,
Yeah.
for me, to some degree, I don't know if I feel comfortable right now talking about the granular nature of it, because I don't know what it's gonna look like right now.
Okay.
I think that's one of those things where if we create guidelines, bumpers, rails, stuff like that, where this is what interests us, I think that is helpful guidance for me to
Okay,
know what is.
I think it
interest-
should
of
be in the
interest to
SOP
people.
that if we get a disorderly property, we're gonna post it. And I'm gonna report back to the council, so yeah, we'll figure out
We'll
a,
track them.
Yeah.
We'll figure out a mechanism to keep track.
but will you be able to track complaints too? So if it's, those would add up, right? There'd be the unfounded, you have complaints that came in as a noise complaint, but it was really a disorderly activity. And then you responded to a disorderly activity, it was unfounded, it was disorderly activity 1, it was disorderly activity.
do you want that as well? So when there wasn't one,
Let's know how many phone calls you got on
Okay.
disorderly, and that was.
let's work with it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I think it's good to know the number of unfounded, because you're gonna get a bunch. You get a bunch of that.
Yeah, I mean, the question is how much resources does it take to count the unfounded? Now we got the secretary, the administrative assistant working harder at making sure we get these logs, make sure we're tracking them. This is one. One is never more than we can handle. It's 1 13 times.
Yeah.
And that's what happens in municipal government, is we get asked to do one thing, one at a time, every time. Next thing you know, we're holding 20 of them. We're like, when did this happen? It happened 20 times once.
Under taxes, yeah.
That-
Well,
Under taxes.
no new taxes.
One man's opinion, well heard, I heard it. Yeah.
I pay $90,000 a year under taxes. Okay.
We need a department of 5 people. So if you will fund that, we'll make this happen. Sarcasm for those watching the recording later.
All right, so we'll. And I'll soften some of this, so, we're gonna ask staff to come back with a plan for reporting based on what you know. I don't wanna put anything in our.
Oversell. I don't wanna oversell what I'm gonna report for data, not knowing what type of data I'm gonna get.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
my,
let's see
that's
what
my,
you-
that's
yeah.
my. end
Yeah, because
statement. That's
a
my
weekly
I don't wanna
report,
dismiss,
no
I don't-
report, no report, no
Yeah.
report, no report might get
I
kind
don't
of
wanna
boring.
overcommit and disappoint.
Yeah, and I don't think we want, as a committee of residents, and we don't wanna put anybody on staff in a position where they can't deliver, and I think that's a fair, that keeps the relationship
I
going.
mean, honestly, any kind of a feedback loop is an improvement over what we've had, so.
Mhm.
Kind of just get it going and see how it goes.
Good. And then to make sure that we see how it goes, I'm suggesting that the council. We talked about this before, so when I say I suggest, I wrote updates to the Good Neighbor Committee. I think it makes sense for us to ask council to extend this group to meet just once a month, not every Monday, in November, March, and July, for at least a year, to accept and consider any data that's gonna come in, invite public participation and comment, and consider additional recommendation. I mean, people can always come to a council meeting and comment, and we encourage that, but to invite public participation and comment in a focused way, and consider additional recommendations to council consistent with its goal, with this committee's goals and charge.
You
Anybody,
mean once a quarter, right?
essentially once a quarter, but
I
kind
said
of,
once a month.
yeah, no, it'd be November, March, I don't know how you say once every 3 times in the year, that's not a quarter, though. Is that a quarter? It's a quarter.
It's everything.
A quarter, okay, so
Quarterly.
once a quarter. But I think November makes sense, because we'll have kind of.
Yeah.
Not gonna say weathered, but we'll have experienced the start of the semester
Yep.
and, how that initial rollout has gone. March is, kind of, I think it's quieter in February and, but. It'll also be a chance for us to think, okay, now we're coming up on the end of the year and we've got main day and things like that. And I think the responsiveness to that's been really, really good. And I think the main day response is a great model for how a college town should react, respond to things.
I think main day is not what it used to be.
No, it's gotten light, gotten
Not even
easier.
fun anymore.
Well, I will say, I did notice there was no music at Main Day last year. It was surprising to me. That was like, as a former student. No music anywhere?
It's a,
Yeah, you turn the clock back 10.
that's not,
30 into main days.
let's not encourage people to take it up another level or anything, because that's not. You get quoted in the paper from, from these recordings and, tennis cross challenge. Today's students are,
Universities have something to say about this too.
yeah. So
It's evolving.
it's evolving. And then I think this recommendation, we didn't get into any long-term planning. We didn't, as part of this committee, that was one of our charges, and we didn't, I,
Are you gonna set the date? You want me to set a date? Do you wanna just pick this day and time at the time and we'll do those months? Cause we'll get the invite on calendar so that. we
Yeah.
do them up.
any,
Do the invites?
yeah, will sound to the invites?
Is this date and time, is the Mondays at 9 the time?
I suppose so. Yeah, I think it still works. So second or third Monday in November, it's not
We'll
Thanksgiving week.
obviously wait till after tonight to make
Yeah.
sure the council agrees to do them, but.
Yeah. Does that make sense to people? All right, so how do I take this document? What are people comfortable with me? I'm gonna report to council tonight as the co-chair of this committee.
Yeah, I think it's a
Consensus to-
consensus recommendation.
Okay.
It's not, consensus is not unanimous, but
Mhm.
I think it's a clear consensus, right? And
Yep.
it's just a recommendation. We don't have any power, but it is the recommendation of this committee, so.
Okay. And then,
You're basically unanimous. Pretty darn close, I think,
Yeah.
on the important stuff,
90% anyway.
Gracie, are you comfortable with that phraseology?
I'm sorry, you guys cut out for the past like 2 minutes. Can you repeat what it was?
Yeah, we just, in terms of, we have a council meeting tonight, so this committee will report to the council. And, anyone's welcome to attend, and if anyone wants to speak as part of that, I think we could, we'll certainly make time for people. But I would say that we've got some I'd call this document our consensus recommendations of the Good Neighbor Committee. And I'm gonna have to check with Leo between now and then, just to see where he, make sure he's comfortable with the term, but I mean, even if he's not, I think it's still pretty reflective of the views of the, and I know he's comfortable with a lot of this, and I just don't want to speak for him or Rob in the council meeting without checking with him first. But so that, I would say, my intent would be to say that this document, I'll make a few minor tweaks to it based on the conversation we've just had, is that these are consensus recommendations of Orono's Good Neighbor Committee.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I think that the document does a really good job of hitting all of the different angles that we've all been coming from.
Yeah. And then I might throw in, it has the unanimous support then of all the University of Maine students who participated in the committee, just you okay speaking for 11,000 Black Bears?
It's more people than I've spoken for before, but I guess I can be.
We appreciate your work, so.
Writing things in, no new taxes at the end.
I'm not putting that in, but we worked really hard on it.
Document.
We worked really hard on it. Should you wanna talk?
I'm never getting invited to
Yeah.
anything again.
No.
No,
This
you're
was
not gonna
good.
work on it.
Anybody have anything else for us? We're actually done a little early. Anybody, the 28th would be great if people at the public hearing, and I'll email you about it, but people want to participate in the public hearing. I think, I saw Mike Curtis, who is the Orono resident who got, whose nose broken. I saw him this weekend playing at Woodman's, and I think he's gonna come attend at the hearing and talk about his experience. So,
I just have a real quick thing. Being a lifelong Orono resident, I appreciate the town of Orono taking the initiative and finally, I shouldn't say finally, but doing something and listening to the residents, and it's been a long time coming. So thank you to you guys and the committee for putting this together, and Chief Merrill for your time. And hopefully we'll start seeing some results and people be at ease.
yeah. I've been really impressed with staff's willingness to work with residents on issues like this, the Orono stops and this, and
Well, and as a spin-off, I think in August or September, we're gonna bring back to the council some ordinance changes about street parking.
yep,
I mean, we shared that out with you,
Mhm.
staff side, that's the police department's job. And they recognize some issues with that one street that is posted isn't listed in the ordinance.
It actually is. I double checked it.
Oh,
You
you
missed
found
it.
it?
You missed it, yeah.
Good.
So the recommendation would be to just, I don't know the history as to why one, you might know, Dennis, why would one street be marked westerly parking only when the other three are all the same width, narrow length, and they're not marked no parking? It's on streets.
Somebody lived on that street that squawked.
There you go.
The other streets didn't squawk.
Well, guess what? I'm gonna make a recommendation that they all get posted. How that, and then it's consistent.
We recommend you park only on one side of the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes
And then
sense.
it's
Those
consistent.
streets are narrow.
Does the sign always say
That's the
westerly?
reason why-
Does the sign say westerly?
Yep.
Oh,
The
well,
ordinance does. The west,
Oh,
it says
okay, I was saying,
westerly.
sign-
entire
then
length.
That's your problem.
No,
Nobody's
no.
got- Let me pull up.
No parking this side.
Yeah,
of the
okay,
street.
all right.
It's the whole street, there's three or whatever on that street that say no parking this side.
And we
And I
thought. we
drove all the
brought
other ones and I was like, there's nothing here. This doesn't make any sense.
we
And
thought
North
we'd
Main,
stagger, so that way you.
Those streets are way too narrow for parking.
Yeah.
Nobody's got sense enough
right,
to do it by saying, well, no, we can't
I
do
think
that.
it'll have a backside effect that'll help us out in the winter time.
Yeah.
Significantly, because that's a street that we typically get some complaints of people parking on both sides, so.
And
I think
the
it's
one
a
thing I
no-brainer.
would say is check with Public Works, because I don't know if they're doing it or not, but there's talk about putting sidewalks back in on one side of those streets.
Oh.
So you just want to make sure the parking and the sidewalks are coordinated.
Good thought. Hadn't thought about that.
Is that happening? Not
Which
happening,
one's that?
like on Peter Street, sidewalk back in. There's a
That would affect
sidewalk
that.
that's actually buried under about 6 inches
Yep.
of dirt. It's been that long since the town's maintained the sidewalk.
It's part of that, but I'll have
Oh,
to
yeah,
read the map.
should double check that.
Sidewalk once.
Okay, we'll take a peek at the final
Anyways,
designs.
Yeah.
the town thinks.
Well, and that'll narrow the road even more.
Yeah.
You have sidewalk and park car.
Is that the one, is that part of the current Webster? Is Peters included on that list? a
Pierce
road
Peters
review?
and Pond, yeah. I said Peters Pond and
Well, no, but is that part of the Webster storm drainage? Is Peters one of the streets we're doing right now, or did that get delayed?
Yes,
Okay.
Peter Street was done, new water line,
Can I add,
storm drain.
can I add something totally unrelated to what we're doing? Is there like, for the town of Orono, an evacuation plan or like any concerns about flooding, like what happened in Texas? If our rivers are at risk of that, like, do we have anything set up? Talking about storm drainage and parking and stuff like that. Like an alert system for,
Higher ground.
I don't know, my house is like 60 feet above the Penobscot, I think, and I
See,
feel
I'm
pretty
right
good
at
about that.
Penobscot, so we're right,
Yeah,
if something happened up north, came down, we'd be.
They have an
Chad'd
old
be in
flood
trouble
level
if it's
sign.
your house.
yeah,
They have an old flood level sign from like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was a big flood, and it didn't come anywhere near enough to really
yeah,
be a risk to
they have a
residents.
marker down on Brownie Beach that I didn't know existed. That happened too.
yeah,
There's like a marker of a flood from like.
Yeah.
87.
1900s or something.
87.
Yeah.
Lived in the basin.
Yeah, that's right, it was the
Yeah.
eighties, that's right, it's, and so I like. That's probably fine.
Yeah, you must
Keep
remember
bank- I
when
mean,
they
if it
took,
makes
the
you
bridge
look
came
pretty
out,
bankrupt.
Johnny McBrook
Yep.
flooded and took
Yep.
took the bridge out down there,
It's
on
crazy.
Rockscott Street. I mean,
I'm not worried about Penobscot, I'm worried about my basement, so it's kind of,
That is a good question.
yeah,
yeah,
it is a good question.
I was just wondering from all the news coverage, just.
Sounds like we need a special council meeting towards the end of August. Send me an email.
I mean, if Orono floods, you and I are both bankrupt, so I mean, you know.
We'll see what the other
sure
side
I'm
says.
bothered.
Damn it! How's that
Yeah.
sound?
That's
There's our consensus.
Call my bluff right there. I go with you, yeah, it's those other 6 councilors you gotta worry about.
I mean, just echo what Chad said, this has been a fantastic process.
Thank you.
And it would not have happened 2-3 years ago with different set of personnel, so
Mhm.
just want to recognize that and appreciate the hard work from council, volunteers and staff that put into this.
People are willing to be vulnerable and take part in hard conversations, and we learn from each other, and I think that's an important part of bringing people together, so. A lot of work though.
It
So-
is.
Is it Clint's 1-year anniversary?
Yeah, he just had
Just
it.
about.
Yeah,
Doing,
just had it.
doing a good job.
He's doing fantastic.
As much as
Alright.
kindness, I told Dan, he's not gonna sneak one of these by me again this week. No, this was good. It was just timing a budget. This was a little bit of, we juggled a little. And it showed, but I appreciate everybody not picking on us for
No.
being a little tricky with the turnaround on ordinance reviews and revisions and so forth, but we got it.
And, you know, Rome wasn't built in a day, and Orono, we're not gonna change Orono overnight, but
It'll
it'll
take
totally make progress, so.
So some of the value was the conversation. Like, landlords here, residents were affected, staff here. I think just the conversation, there was learning that happened and.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think the ordinance was a big piece of it, but just having the conversation, I think was important too.
It's a moving target in some ways because like in my case, my tenants change. Such a high percentage of them change every year. You know, you get tenants that you like, you know how to work with them, know how to deal, and then all of a sudden they're gone and you got a whole,
Yeah.
it's just a moving target.
And I think sometimes I think about like, all right, there's upsides to being a landlord, I would think, being a landlord in Orono and the relationship with the college and the college students. But then there's gotta be downsides for that too, right? You don't get to
You churn it over all at the same time, and you're
Yeah.
turning over 3 or 4 times as much as the other landlords. It's definitely tricky, yeah.
yeah, no, it's tricky. And we want good landlords to be successful in Orono, because wouldn't be Orono without the rental properties that we have, and so.
Little bit students.
With the students, and I'm a huge, I wanted very much to make, we moved our election to November because we wanted to make decisions in Orono together. And the student population is a big part of that, and I'm mindful of that, very mindful of that. I want, and,
Or the university, we wouldn't be as big as VZ.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
We live,
At
yeah,
least they got a ball plant.
Or an arcade would be important.
All right, good. Well, thank you. We've done actually earlier, our last meeting, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll see